So recently, the kind folks over at Lomography were kind enough to loan me out the 17mm Atoll wide-angle lens for a BTS shoot that I was a part of. On the shoot, I was going to be operating as a unit stills photographer for 3 days, and I wanted to have something in my arsenal that would be just unique and help give me just like a different perspective on things. So before I even reached out to Lomography, I actually had no clue that this lens even existed, but I stumbled upon it and I really just loved what I was seeing with the sample images, and it started to spark a lot of inspiration in what I was going to be capable of shooting. And you know, I didn't know too much of what was going on, what was going to happen on set, but it just gave me inspiration for the possibilities that could be at my disposal. Once the package arrived, the unboxing experience was actually really cool. I really appreciate like a good just unboxing experience. It shows that the people really believe in and care about the product that they made. And as you guys can see here, Lomography just clearly put a lot of love into just the packaging and presentation of this lens. Inside the box, there's just a few, small manuals and of course other documentation paper. But what I did not know is that if you buy this lens, it comes with this photo book, and it's actually quite impressive and it was really cool. Honestly wanted to keep it, but I'm just loaning out the lens, so I had to return it. But the images in there were actually very inspiring to look at and just really showcase what this lens is capable of. It can be used on portrait shoots, it can be used for landscape photos, it can be used for street photography. But for my application, obviously, I wanted to use it for BTS photography. Since I wasn't able to really test the lens how I wanted to beforehand, my first time using it ended up being on the day of the shoot. Throughout the 3 days, I ended up using this lens on 2 different cameras, my Leica M6, and then I remembered that I have my FX3 and I have a Leica adapter to Sony. And so I was able to adapt the lens on there. And the Sony FX3 obviously is not a photo camera, it's a video camera mainly, but it has a 12 megapixel photo mode function. So I just used it with that and used it to the best of my abilities there. The Sony isn't my favorite kind of camera system to shoot on, but I was able to use this lens effectively and how I wanted. And to be completely honest with you, the results did not disappoint at all. I love what I was able to get and what I was seeing from this lens. I do want to just highlight a few features of the lens. So as you can see, this is a 17mm 2.8 wide angle lens, and for me, I've never shot anything wider than 28mm. If you own pretty much any Leica camera, you know that the frame lines only go to about 28mm, and if you want to go anything wider than that, whether that be 24, 21mm, you need to have an external viewfinder. This lens does come with an external viewfinder, and I'll talk about that a little later. But 17mm is, again, just the widest I've ever shot, and it's very unique. And in my opinion, the character of this lens comes into play when you utilize it in the way it's meant to be utilized. The quality of this lens is very nice. I don't know if it's brass or aluminum, but it feels really solid. It's pretty weighty, and as you can see, it's obviously a lot bigger than most Leica lenses, but that wasn't any detrimental factor to the way this lens works. It does have a declicked aperture ring, and I don't really find use for that with photo. I like to have a clicked aperture ring so I know what stops I'm at, and I can sort of use the lens without having to look down on it. But you could also use this lens for video, which is really nice, and being able to have a declicked aperture with video is nice. It can focus up to 0.25 meters, which is extremely close, but obviously on a Leica M body, that doesn't help at all unless you have a digital camera body, because on all of the Leica rangefinders, you can only focus down to 0.7 meters, and then, your patch it's just at its own will. So being able to shoot this lens closer to that on film is ineffective. I do wish that there was some type of just hard stop or just subtle stop so that when you're turning the lens that you are approaching that 0.25 or you're going beyond, or below 0.7 meters. Maybe if Lomography makes a version 2 of this lens, that's something that they could implement in that. And honestly, just all lenses that can go closer than 0.7 meters and are meant to be on Leica cameras can have some type of soft stop, hard stop, so that you're going past that focal range. But again, I was using this lens on digital as well, so sometimes that came to my benefit of being able to go closer, and I did not have to worry about, you know, that focus stop area, whatever it's called. I don't know. So let's talk about cons with this lens, and to be honest, it doesn't have too many. It does flare, and in my opinion, it has this like signature kind of orange flare, and that's not a bad thing. It looks really nice, but it just almost feels like sometimes the lens hood, because it's so wide, isn't really that effective in what it's doing. So the lens hood kind of feels useless. Like, it looks nice and it's good for the lens cap and all that, but at times it just doesn't feel like it's effective if whatever subject you're shooting, if you're on the shadow side, shooting towards any type of light source or the sun. But luckily, like, the way it flares, it's kind of on like the two corner edges, on both like the left and right side of the frame, and it doesn't necessarily ever get in the way of any faces and stuff like that in your shot. So it's not too bad. It just does flare pretty easily. Another con, and I think the main downside I would just say to this lens, is the viewfinder it comes with. My opinion, it's just very plasticky. It's a little too plasticky, and in comparison to just the quality of the lens itself, I do wish that the viewfinder was a bit better quality. I don't know if this was just because I had a loaner kit and multiple people have probably used this in the past, but it did end up falling apart on me. I was able to just put it back together and was able to effectively use it throughout these 3 days on the shoot. But I just do wish it felt a lot better. It felt very fragile to me, and I just kind of felt like I had to be very careful with it so that I don't break it. So to close out this video with a few thoughts, would I add this lens to my arsenal? Yes, but unfortunately not at this moment. If I was booking more BTS, you know, content type of shoots so that I can, you know, be behind the scenes capturing stuff, I would have added this, you know, lens to my setup immediately. I wouldn't use it for street photography, and that's a lot of just kind of like what I have been shooting in the past and what I will sort of in a way continue to shoot in the future, but I don't have a specific use for it just yet. And I may need to honestly just use it more in those settings so that I can get used to it and start to understand how it works for me, at whether I'm trying to shoot like an environmental shot or portrait, or any type of like landscape work. But that's not stuff I shoot heavily just yet. I'm still trying to get used to just understanding how to shoot that stuff on regular wide angle lens, like a 28 or 24 millimeter or 35 millimeter and whatnot. But for behind the scenes, this lens is absolutely amazing. The way you can get in so close and just capture so much and be able to just make the viewer feel like they're part of the scene and part of just like the intimacy that's going on, and just be able to look at every edge of the frame and just wonder what's going on. I feel like this lens is absolutely perfect for that. As this year plays out, I honestly think I will end up adding this lens to my lineup. It's so unique. It's too unique to just not have, and just with the different styles and the different adventures I want to take and the different things I want to explore, this lens will definitely play a big part in that. So thanks again to Lomography. Thanks to Bridget for loaning me out this lens. I absolutely adored this thing. It was so fun to use. Thanks to Ryan and Nikosi for bringing me on this shoot, this short film, to be able to just capture your guys' process and be a part of something that I love in a new way, in a new perspective, and honestly find a new medium within it that I truly love.